How you doing? I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Today I just wanted to do a quick video on alcohol and its uses and just the way that we view alcohol in our society, right? Alcohol has a whole heap of uses outside of what we actually do with it. Same thing with heroin, same thing with cocaine or any other drug. You get a lot of people talking about the abuse of alcohol. And from my perspective, as a person who has drank alcohol for over 30 years, the abuse of alcohol is to put it into your body. You know, if you're rubbing a greyhound with your alcohol, then that's a good thing to do. If you're using it as a solvent, it's a good thing for it to do. But as soon as you start putting it into the human body and trying to alter the behavior, the thoughts, the emotions, the day, the consciousness of a person, then that's abuse. It's abusing the substance. There's other things in our lives like petrol, for instance, right? That I remember growing up in Dublin in the 1980s. Petrol is for driving engines, and I'm sure there's other uses for it I don't know about, but that's the primary use for petrol, is to put into your car and you drive your car from A to B. Same with glue, is you stick things together with it, whether it's paper, glue, paper, wood, whatever it is, used as a sticky substance, As I say, during the 80s when I was growing up, there was petrol heads, and glue sniffers who used to buy petrol and sniff it until they, their brains just were overcome with this stuff, Same with glue, and they looked at it like it was a buzz. But what the fuck was going on, I once or twice, more than that, maybe 4 or 5 times sniffed gas. The butane gas that you get out of I don't know if it's butane, but the stuff that you fill lighters with, you can get like a bottle, an aerosol can sort of thing, and you squeeze it into the bottom of a lighter. I used to do that and put that into get a hold of the nozzle in my teeth and push the handle and breathe this stuff in. Christ almighty, the damage that I could have caused myself, the permanent damage, death I could have caused myself. But it's a community thing, I wouldn't have done it if somebody else wasn't telling me that it was a good thing to do, not in a widespread community thing, but in a general, my little small neck of the woods, my community. And when I'm talking about my community, I'm talking about the 4 or 5 friends that I was hanging around with, they were the ones that said, oh yeah, you want to try this, and they found it off somebody else, within their little community, or whatever it was, Now, I was getting a buzz out of doing this, otherwise I wouldn't have done it, right? I was told that I would get a buzz, and the first time I did it, it was very tentatively, and thank God I grew out of it. And the reason I grew out of it was because in the wider community, if anyone had found out what we were doing, I think one of the parents eventually found out, and luckily for me, he wasn't somebody he took us aside and, what the fuck are you doing to yourselves, if I catch you doing this, and we got a lecture off him, but he didn't tell my dad. So I stopped doing it then, and he sort of said the dangerous, what could happen to you, But the reason I didn't continue, and the reason most people don't continue with these things, is either something fucking bad happens to them or they grow out of it. That's not the same with alcohol, Alcohol is an accepted drug within our community that is not only encouraged, right, but it's, blatantly encouraged by everybody, from your parents to your friends to your parents' friends, your aunties and uncles, your grandma, your granddad, everybody. Most people in this culture encourage alcohol drinking in one form or another, so it's very difficult to get out of it. The same sort of thinking went with cigarette smoking for years. It was a culturally acceptable thing. You did it because your parents did it because your friends did it. It was culturally acceptable. It was easy to get them. When I was a kid, I could walk up to the shop and buy cigarettes. I don't think it was legal, but there was less of a stigma about an old cow in the local shop giving us cigarettes. This old bitch used to, when I think about it now, that's the way I think about it, because I think about it in terms of my son or my granddaughter. If when she grew up, some old cow was giving her things, I'd want to take her outside and, the back, and put her out of her fucking misery, you know, encouraging children to do that kind of thing, you know. Cocaine is not acceptable now, but it used to be. You know, Sigmund Freud had a cocaine addiction. You know, there were so many people back then who could get a hold of it and did take it, you know, with disastrous consequences. The same with heroin, you know. Heroin at one stage was not widely culturally acceptable, but it was acceptable to a certain degree, not what it's like now, you know. You know, so I guess I'm just trying to say that, you know, until we stop the cultural acceptability of doing this type of damage to ourselves, and it takes people sort of thinking about this from a different perspective. We think about drinking alcohol as normal, and as long as, you know, whenever you hear people talking about alcoholics, for instance, right, they talk about normal drinkers first, and they talk about alcoholics, or they don't even have to talk about normal drinkers, right? It's just assumed that there are normal drinkers, and these people are alcoholics because they're not normal drinkers anymore. They're abusive drinkers. And as long as you start off with that beginning state in mind, that there is normalcy in putting this toxin inside your body for a buzz, as long as you consider that to be a normal behavior, then we're always going to be skewed in what we consider to be abnormal behavior. You know, it's always going to be acceptable within our society to do this to ourselves. You know, I keep saying again and again that, you know, you've got to look at this life as a holistic. You've got to have a holistic approach to this. You know, you can't sort of pick and choose which areas of life you want to be healthy in and which areas of life you don't want to be healthy, because it all adds up to the same thing. You know, the more unhealthy things that you do in your life, the less health you're going to have, the less quality of life you're going to have. Now, on the same token as that, right, you can walk across the street tomorrow and get run down by a bus. That's always the old saying of, well, you know, I smoke because I get run down by a bus tomorrow. I drink because, you know, I could fall off a cliff tomorrow, right? It could happen to anyone, you know. You know, it's just one of those things that just perpetuates the bullshit, you know, perpetuates our own propaganda. You know, when we're talking about propaganda from other people, we're our own biggest propaganda merchants. You know, we tell ourselves these things that we want to hear. So anyway, enough of the ramble today. Just thought I'd do a quick video on that, just on how we view alcohol in our society and how it affects us, you know. If you have any comments at all, leave them down below, any questions. Until next time, I'm Kevin O'Hara for alcoholmastery.com. Take care of yourself, stay safe, onwards and upwards. Good luck, bye now.